T-Soft shoots it, deflected right in. Peter Angelo save rebound. Stastny stopped by Peter Angelo. I don't believe that save. Neither does Peter Stastny. He can't believe the save that Peter Angelo just made on him as Frankie sparkly. Now that maneuver there to stop and rob Peter Stastny. He should get 5 to 10 for that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tendy Talk. I am your host Joe, better known as Washed Up Goalie on social media. This week's episode is a special one for me as I talk to my college goalie coach from St. Mary's University of Minnesota, Donny Nadeau, and ask him what the heck were they thinking when they chose me to be the final goalie out of 24 my freshman year. But before I talk to Donny, let's take a short break. Well, Donny, thank you for joining me. I've been excited to get you on the podcast since you said yes. So thanks for joining.
I'm glad to be here. It's been a long time.
It has. It was funny. I was talking to Eric Richardson for episode 2, and we had a few stories to tell about you after the recording. He and I think we might have to have an episode where it's a St. Mary's goalie roundtable with you.
There you go.
Get guys like Rogalski and S on here too.
Tell you what, those two, of all the goalies that I've coached, it's neat to see what they've done with their knowledge of goaltending. Both of them have really become, very good goalie coaches. I know Ryan has been helping out here at St. Mary's, and Dave. My gosh, what Dave is doing is just it's just been awesome. And it's fun when you see them have success, and you can at least just say, you know what, I worked with them when they were at St. Mary's. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, my first year coaching after college, I didn't do much with the kid, but he wound up going to Ohio State and was in the running for the Hobie Baker for a while. And I worked with him. I didn't do much with them. I just told him, hey, good game. But, but it was interesting when we look at that group of goalies. When I was there, we really worked together and watched each other and gave each other, input on what we were seeing. And, other teams I've played on where if another goalie talks to you, you're kind of like, I'm a little, we're competing, but it for whatever reason that time there, we all just got along and knew we were trying to help each other. And that was fun.
I found in all the years that I coached here, most of the time you had that good camaraderie, and I think that the goalies that I always worked with, they always pushed each other. It wasn't, of course there's competition, you always, and you want competition, but I think it was a healthy competition in that, they weren't cutthroat. It's like, oh, you're starting. Well, I'm not talking to you because, and I always think that, I think back to all the pairs that you had and, they were all pretty good friends and really, I think that's important, especially in college hockey to you've got to have your buddies and really, I mean, a goalie, you're kind of in an island. And so, to have at least a couple of people that can be on that island with you is always a good thing to have.
Well, and I think on our island, he wasn't a goalie, but Hopper was a goalie mentally. And so he was always on our side too.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. I always joked with him. I said, you're a goalie trapped in a forward's body.
Yeah. Aaron was he was an interesting one. I remember, practices where he would go down and, as an assistant coach, he would go down and block shots without any equipment. I was like, Aaron, you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to dig into your background a little bit, Donny. I know you grew up in Woodbury, and in that part of Minnesota, in the whole state, hockey is the game. But how did you get into the game of hockey, and why did you choose to play goalie?
Well, the sad part about this story is I have to use back in my day, and you never really want to do that. But my dad played hockey and never went anywhere, college or anything. Mm-hmm. But he loved the game of hockey. Got me into it when I was really little, and I started playing as a squirt, and the back in my day. But when I played as a squirt, we played outside, and you stood in the snowbank, and that was the bench. And, it was cold, and you shoveled the rink, and you really, I'm not kidding you. You did all those things that you hear stories about. And I don't know why, but I just became enthralled with the goalie. and I started playing goalie as a squirt, and just never stopped. And I started out wearing just regular player skates, and back then we didn't even have toques; they were just steel blades, and they kept denting because in the day when you used skate saves, not not the butterfly of today, and I keep denting my skates, and my dad would have to buy me new skates, and it was just a crazy thing. But I played all the way up through freshman year of college. We finally got indoor. My pee-wee, once I got to a pee-wee, we started playing indoors. But in Woodbury, when I lived in Woodbury, for those that don't know Woodbury, there was about 3,000 people in Woodbury when I lived there. There's about 60,000 now.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different time. And we didn't have an indoor rink, and so we actually went to River Falls, Wisconsin, and that was quote unquote our home rink. So we would travel there to practice and to play. And I certainly give my dad a lot of credit for he would coach and kind of spearhead getting the ice in River Falls and taking all the kids over there, and it followed through. I played high school for Steve Romanchuk at Woodbury, and came here to St. Mary's, and was hoping to play, and just so happened that my freshman year was a goalie's sophomore year, and his name was Greg Dick. And
Okay.
Greg was coming off of a freshman year in which he was drafted by the Winnipeg Jets. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall that I probably wasn't going to see much playing time. And they also had another sophomore at that time, Jeff Duncan, who was just a step below Greg in terms of talent. And so I hung up the pads as a competitive goalie, and kind of got into a little bit of what I'm doing now, and worked with Don Olson, and he let me hang around the team and kind of be his go-to guy when whatever it was he would need. And that's kind of how I got into the coaching world, is just working with Don. And it's funny, you talk about you look back at how you started your career as a goalie, and then you see your oldest son literally kind of following your footsteps, and me following my dad's footsteps as the person who was the coach. And and it's kind of funny how everything just kind of comes around full circle.
Yeah. You mentioned that term back in your day, and you alluded to the equipment a little bit with the steel blades, and without the tube. What kind of equipment did you have back then? And I asked this question seriously, not as a joke, but were goalies wearing masks on a regular basis then?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Well, actually, the funny story is, as a squirt, I wore a Tony Esposito street hockey mask. That's what I wore. And I got to paint it all up, but it was not a hex certified or anything like that. It was a little Tony Esposito mask. But I actually went right to a full cage. I tried out at that time. If you think back to the days of Bernie Perrant and those, that full molded mask. Tried that for a year and got hit a couple times, and that hurt. And so we got rid of that mask really fast. But the equipment was, definitely nothing like you guys, like you had when you played, or what they have now. I mean, I would love to be a goalie in today's world. My gosh, the stuff that they have and how light it is.
Yep.
I had the old leather pads, and they got wet and they got heavy, and it was complete. When I was a squirt, I used a baseball glove as a catcher's mitt, as your catch glove, because the catch gloves that they had, the old Cooper gloves, were too stiff, and you couldn't, I was 9 years old. I couldn't squeeze it. So I used a baseball glove, and, so times are definitely very different now in terms of equipment, and I don't like to sound like an old man, but it really was very different. And funny story is, when Richie Eric, your guest last week, graduated from St. Mary's, he sold my oldest son Andy his Brian's leather.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
Andy he used those in high school, and it's funny how the equipment has just changed so much.
Yeah, well, I'm still using my Vaughns I had at St. Mary's. They're 20 years old now, and they're kind of old.
Yeah, but it's,
the new stuff.
It is, and I've put on Andy's pads. You know, he still plays,
Yeah.
you know, the old timers league, whatnot. And it's amazing. I mean, they weigh nothing.
Yeah.
They're worn completely different from what I used to do. I mean, I used to wear my pads tight,
Yeah.
you know, all the way up to the top, and these guys got this, you know, the big flap at the top, and it's all loose. And I personally couldn't play today just because it's just the way the equipment is worn is just so different.
That's one of my apprehensions of getting new equipment. I mean, there's no leather straps anymore. There's no buckles going under the skate. I still have
Right.
two.
Yeah. It's just different. It's funny how it's changed.
Yeah. When you started, did you have the 2-piece chest protector like I did, or yeah?
Sure did, absolutely. And
It was about a quarter inch thick.
The arm protectors were worthless because
Yeah.
all it was a little piece of foam stuck in a little pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, you know, it was a different time. And, you know, granted, I think that the players are better now. I think they shoot harder. I think, you know, so that part is part of it too. But, you know, I think that it's just, you know, that's what it was back then. I mean, that was as good as it got, you know, and I don't think, you know, for me, I didn't know any better. You know, we're the goalie and this is what you wore. And you know, it's easy to look back now and say, man, how did you ever do it? But, you know, that's what it was. It was just that way.
In our eras too, you could tell the goalies by the bruises. If your goalie didn't have bruises,
right,
you worried about what kind of goalie he was. Today,
right.
they don't even feel it. They complain because they get a bruise.
Right.
You know, so that's how far the game has gone. Now, you alluded to it a little bit. When you were a freshman, you saw the writing on the wall. You were going to St. Mary's to pursue a journalism degree. What got you interested in journalism?
Well, you know, I've always liked to write. Even when I was in high school, I enjoyed writing. I liked to write, and obviously, I love sports. So it just kind of was a natural fit. And my sophomore year, I had a class with a fellow named Kevin McGrath, and he was at the time he was working part-time at the Winona Daily News, and took me along to one of his. He had to cover a cross-country meet in Rochester, and took me along, and you know, I kind of saw what he was doing, and how he was doing what he was doing. And I'm like, you know what, this is pretty interesting. And I think I might like this. So I kind of switched from my communications major to a journalism major, and spent a lot of time at the Winona Daily News. And I spent, you know, I worked part-time there for 3 years and interned there. And, you know, that's where I learned the business. You know, I spent 10 years as a sports reporter and sports editor before I got the job here at St. Mary's. And, you know, it was a great time. I got to do some amazing things. I got to meet some really neat people. Interviewed Wayne Gretzky one-on-one, which is probably my all-time claim to fame. I covered 2 World Series. And so I got to do, you know, I covered the Vikings for a little bit. And so it was very fun. It was a fun time. I got to, you know, you got to be creative, and you got to just write, and you know, then the job here came up, and here I am 26 years later.
And that's a great segue. So it's no mystery as to why you applied for the Sports Info role, because you love the school. And I think if you talk to anybody over the past 26 years, if they think St. Mary's sports, they think of you. Quite honestly, you know, everybody who has come through those doors, whether they've played on a team or not, they know who you are because of your dedication to the school too. And that work hasn't been overlooked either. You're part of the class of 2021 Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
What was that like? I saw the video. It was a little emotional for you, but you had to have known it was coming at some point.
Well, you know, anytime you think about being in a profession, as long as I've been in this one, and you know, the Sports Hall of Fame is for athletes, you know, and so to be just the second non-coach, non-athlete to be inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame that's a pretty big honor, you know. And it's, I mean, I can't wait for March when they have the induction ceremony. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm extremely excited. I'm extremely nervous. You know, I get up there and blubber my way through a speech, but you know, St. Mary's has been very special to me for so many years. You know, I'm an 85 grad of here, and and met my wife here. Both my kids went to St. Mary's, and so it's kind of like a culmination of everything you've done. Nobody does their job to be a Hall of Famer. That's not why you do what you do. You do what you do because you love doing it, and I love the people. And for you to say what you said leading up to this, that means a lot, because I've met a lot of students, a lot of people here that I still keep in contact with, and I cherish that. And I always make the joke, aside from the hockey players when I coached, you meet them as freshmen because you take their mugshots. And then by their junior year, they've become to get to know you. And then by the senior year, they're coming in and they're sitting down in your office and they're talking to you, and you're like, where were you 3 years ago? You finally get to know them as a real, as a real person, and they're graduating, and so it's, I'm very lucky that I get to do that. I get to meet so many people, and I get to have great conversations, and I get to see people. I really get to see people grow, and look at yourself, look where you were as a freshman. And then when you left as a senior, it's like two different people. And, and I get to literally see that happen to hundreds of people. We have 300 student athletes, and in some way, shape, or form, I have talked to and conversed with probably 200 of them. And, so it's very rewarding. It's a great job. I love what I do. And come March, when I get, when I am officially inducted, I'm going to be very proud to say that I'm a Hall of Famer. That's
you should be.
No doubt about that.
Absolutely. And, I still remember, I think it was that first summer we were working hockey camp together. You said something to me that really has stuck with me since, and I've used it with kids I've coached and my own kids. And it was, respect is earned, not given.
That's right.
And I think that's the way you carried yourself with us student athletes is, hey, I'm going to be nice to you, but you got to earn that respect.
That's right.
Coach Olson, he had some comments I remember reading, just saying how you were the best and most important hire he ever made as athletic director, because you helped bring Cardinal Athletics to what it is now. It was you who, I think it was said, Coach Olson didn't talk much in meetings, but when he did, people perked up and listened. To have him say that, what did that mean to you?
Well, Coach O has been such an important part of my life from the day I got to St. Mary's. Like the story I told you, I didn't get to play for him, but I got to work with him. And then, it went from him being my coach to him being my mentor to him being my friend. And, we still converse weekly. We'll shoot each other a text, hey, how's it going? He is a class act top to bottom, and he respects you as people. He gives you he allowed me to learn. He taught me how to coach. I never dreamed of being a coach. He gave me the opportunity to be the goalie coach. He came to me and said, hey, you've got a knack for this. You want to give it a try. I need a goalie coach. You want to help me out? And, it's like, wow, you're going to, I'm, just back. So I'm, it's 26 years ago. And he's like, I'd love to have you on the staff. And it's so hard to put into words what he has meant to me. I don't respect that anybody more than I respect him. And, he's always there for you. And he always was when he was coaching here, when he was AD. If anybody had a problem, his door was always open. And it was a sad day when he left, and it was for me just because I was losing, like I said, I was losing somebody who was not only my coach, but my mentor and my friend. And, I was glad to see him get the job at Scholastica to continue on. And now he's enjoying retirement up in the Duluth area. And we had some fun times together. We used to always, every day when he was coaching here, every day we'd walk to the bookstore, he and I, at 9:00 in the morning. We'd go to the bookstore and we'd buy a pop. And we'd probably spend, 15, it takes you about 3 minutes to walk to the bookstore. Well, it'd take us about a half an hour to get back, because we would just sit in, maybe the president's room or maybe outside, and we just talk. We talk about whether it be, what the practice plan was going to be for the week, or maybe just, how's Dee Dee doing? Or how's Linda doing? We would just talk, and we do it every single day. And people would just pretty soon after a while, people go, oh, it's 9 o'clock. Donny and Don are going to get their pops. And it was just kind of our time to be together and just the two of us. And we just, we would just have conversations and it's just, we have a great relationship, the two of us. And we always cherish every time either he comes down here or we get together at an outing. It's just, he's just such a nice person to be around.
I got a message from Aaron Hoppert. I think it was last year. He goes, "You're never going to guess who my assistant coach is this year." And I said, "No idea." And he said, "Coach Olson was just coming out coaching youth hockey with them, just to be around the game."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he has such a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just to sit down and talk hockey with him. And the thing with Coach O is he truly gives you everything he's got, whether it be youth hockey or college hockey or high school hockey, whatever it is. I remember when I was here and I was helping, not only did I help Don, but I also helped the high school team. I was the assistant coach of the high school team. And he would take time out of his day to sit down with Fran and I and talk, systems or talk whatever it may be that we would need help with, or the youth association would need help with. And he was always there to lend a hand. And I mean, he's just got so much knowledge of hockey that it's just, Aaron's very lucky if he's got Coach Olson.
Yes. Now you touch on the fact that, so you were coaching at St. Mary's, you were coaching at the high school level because you had boys going through Winona Senior High, and you helped out at the youth level while still doing your day job as a sports info director, which at St. Mary's at the time you were the sports information department.
And still am.
When did you sleep and when did you see Dee Dee?
The one thing when I was very lucky because when my kids were little, when my kids were growing up through hockey, my job was a little bit different. The internet wasn't a 24/7, 365 job. You actually could create hours. We didn't have live stats or we didn't have live video. So that part of the job, I didn't have to be there for. So I was able to, there was one point where I coached Bantam team, a high school team, and worked with Coach O at the same time. And, it took a lot of planning, but like I said in the very beginning, my dad instilled in me that I always feel like I was a good coach. I was very knowledgeable. And if I can provide that to my kids' teams or whoever it may be, then I want to do that. When Andy moved up to high school, Fran McDivitt took over the high school program that year and asked me to be his assistant. And I'm like, I would absolutely love to, because I had never coached at the high school level. Wanted to keep going with my son because I had done it all the way through squirts and stayed with Fran through Andy's 4 years. Then there was a 2-year gap, and then Joey came through, and then 2 years after that, because of my eye disease, I just hung it up and just said, I can't do this anymore. So, so I was in coaching for a very, very long time. And, I still miss it to this day. I really enjoyed it. I actually love working with the youth. I love just teaching them how to pass, how to skate, how to love the game, and I think that sometimes that gets forgotten. It's just, it's a game. Go out and play. Everybody is so caught up in, well, we need to play, we need to travel 2 hours and play a game, and we need to, do this. You know what? Just go out and play. It's like you were saying off, before we started the thing, that you're making a rink in your backyard. The kids just need to play. Let them play. That's what it's all about. It's going out and go out with them and, skate around and just have fun and enjoy that amazing sport of hockey.
Those 3 summers I worked the summer hockey camp, those kids, they were there just having fun, just playing the game. But as soon as they went to bed, all of us counselors were out on that ice for about 4 hours every night, just playing.
Exactly.
Unstructured, just having fun. It didn't matter if the puck went in the net or not. We were just having a good time competing against each other.
Yeah, those camps, so 7 weeks of that was too much. I don't know how we did it.
Yeah. Yeah, they were fun though, at least for us counselors.
Yeah,
It was a good use of my summertime. Otherwise, I would
that's
have
right.
been home in Chicago getting in trouble.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You mentioned your boys coming up and going to St. Mary's. I know how special it was for me to put that jersey on the first time. What was it like to see both of your boys wear the St. Mary's jersey and
It
come through the
was,
program?
I always joke, first off, I joke that for 8 years I got paid to watch my kids play hockey, which is pretty dang cool. Um, I'll never forget the first day that Andy stepped out, and Andy dreamed since he was 10 years old
Hmm.
of, of playing for St. Mary's. I mean, he would be at every game, obviously because I
Yeah.
worked there, but he'd be at every game, and, he'd go into the locker room and get autographs from the players. And, someday I'm going to do this. He, when he lived that dream and stepped out on the ice in a white St. Mary's jersey, it's just like, you as a parent, you're extremely proud.
Hmm.
That's a lot of work. It took a lot of work for both of them to get to that level. And you see a lot of kids that come out of high school, and high school is the end for them.
Hmm.
And for both Andy and Joey to go on and play 4 years of college hockey is, it's pretty special. I think it was harder to see them skate off the ice for the last time
Yeah.
than it was to skate on the ice for the first time. I mean, the first time is very memorable, but the last time is for, that's the finality. And,
Yeah.
and, that was pretty tough, but, I'm proud of both of them, what they accomplished here at St. Mary's. And it was certainly a fun ride.
Now, you mentioned something that is a nice segue of, for a lot of hockey players, high school is the end of the line. For me, it wasn't. My freshman year, we had 24 goalies trying out for 6 spots. What the heck did you see in me to keep me as the 6th goaltender?
I think, but Joe, the thing is a lot of times you look at character. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a lot more to, you have to weigh not just a person's individual talent, but you also have to look at them as a person. I mean, put it this way. Look at all you did for St. Mary's besides play hockey.
Hmm.
I mean, there was stuff that we were doing. I remember you making the mixtapes
Yep.
for to play in the games. I mean, things like that. There was so much more to St. Mary's hockey for you than just playing the game. I
Hmm.
mean, you were a part of it. You lived a part of it. It wasn't just 2 hours of practice in a 3-hour game. I mean, you were a part of it. And I think that you see that in people when they just their effort in tryouts. It's not just who's the best,
Hmm.
because you got 24. And as I've always said, and this is something that I firmly believe that people don't understand, is when you come to St. Mary's to play hockey, you usually are the best on your team. Okay.
Hmm.
When you get here, everybody was the best.
Right.
Now you've got, what were the 80 people tried out. They were all the best,
Hmm.
on their teams, or at least, maybe first line players or starting goalie or whatever it is. And so there's not a lot of difference between A and Z. So what you do is you look for what intangibles does that person bring? How hard are they going to work? How
Hmm.
much are they going to accept their role? Not everybody's going to be the starting goalie, and goalie is probably the hardest position of all when it comes to playing. It's kind of like being a pitcher.
Hmm.
I mean, you could be a relief pitcher and maybe pitch once a week. Or you can be a goalie who's the third goalie, and you may never play. But you know what? You're an integral part of that team. And I think that more and more people are realizing that. Teammates are realizing that. They're realizing the importance of every member of that team, not just that starting goalie. And I think that those are the things that it's not easy to be a number 3 goalie. It's very hard because basically you practice.
Hmm.
You get to dress for games. You don't hope that somebody gets hurt, but you know what? They might. And you might get to go in. But I think that it takes a special person to be able to fill that role, and
Hmm.
that's that position is so important. And you could have a third string goalie, or you could be the third string on the JV. But if you're not a part of the team, if you're worried about me and not we, then you're going to become a cancer in the locker room, and that's just going to be bad for everybody. Well, that type of personality, we as coaches, when you have tryouts, we see that stuff. We see how hard people work. Whether you're doing a Herbie or whatever it is, we see how hard people work and how hard they want it. And that weighs into it. People don't realize how much that weighs into a selection, especially like you said, when you've got 24 goalies and you're only picking 6.
Yep.
You've got to look at more than just, okay, how are they going to fit with the team?
Well, I've said for years, I was a 4-year JV All-Star. I was a locker room guy, and I had the fastest door in the MIAC.
But you know what? You had a blast for 4 years.
Oh, God. And that's what I followed up with. They say for 4 years, I didn't have to pay extra to play hockey. And those are probably 4 years of my favorite times playing hockey too.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I remember that first JV practice freshman year, Coach Manor gets us all around center ice right after we stretch. He says, look around. You all want to be on varsity. You're not right now. He goes, we need you, each and every one of you, to play a role. That might be first line center. That might be fourth line. We need you to play your role and accept it. And if you do that, you have a chance to move up. And I think that group we had that freshman year, we were pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And we accepted it. I think we lost 2 games all year. And
you had fun. I mean, the thing is we were able to, I think back when you were in school, our JV program was, it was a step below our varsity. And it was, we were able to move people up and down and in and out. And I think that was, heck, we had 80, 90 people would come to tryouts.
My last game I dressed for, we won the JV championship at Augsburg Arena. We had some good players back then. So it was funny when we moved into our current house about 8 years ago, the first national night out, I'm sitting at the park and the fire engine pulls up and this curly haired fella gets off the rig, and it was Colin Emmons.
Oh, really?
And we just kind of look at each other and, it's, well, what are you doing here? Well, I live here. What are you doing here? He lives about a mile from me.
Okay.
And he said, a bunch of guys on the fire department have a beer league team. If we need a goalie, can we call you? And about a year later, I got the phone call. Hey, we need a goalie this season. I've been skating with the team since. He's got little kids, so he doesn't play on the team anymore. But thanks to him, he got me back in the game, and I see him every so often around town.
It's pretty crazy how, and you build those relationships and those friendships. And when you do come back, or when you do see somebody like that, it just immediately floods memories of when you guys were here at St. Mary's or whatever it may be. And it's, I mean, when you email me for this, it's like, you just start thinking back to when you were there. And it's really fun to just think about. I played in the Cardinal Excellence Fund golf outing this past weekend, and it was kind of nice for me because I didn't have to work heavy sports. But I got to play with. I had a foursome of goalies, so I played with my son, and
so the scores were pretty high.
Played with Greg Dick, and we played with Brian Nearson, who was a roommate of mine who was a goalie as well. So we had a lot of fun, and it was all of a sudden we said, well, wait a minute, we got 4 goalies here. No wonder our score isn't very good.
Yeah. I asked Richie this when I talked to him, what did you think the first time you saw me on the ice? And I loved his reaction. I don't know if it was an insult or a compliment. And he said that my game was perfectly suited for the beer league. So I have to ask you the same question. The first time you saw me on the ice, because we did a lot of skating together at camp, but the first time you saw me in net, what were you thinking?
Well, I kind of agree with Richie, to be honest with you. We used to, I think the thing I enjoyed about you was, one, you were just like a sponge. Anything that I would say or suggest or whatever, you were all about it. Yep. No problem. I can do that. Or I can, there was never a no in you, but I really thought that there was a great chemistry between us. I mean, we joked around. I think we joked around more than probably any other goalie that I ever coached. That we just had we enjoyed being together. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I liked working with you on the ice. I just liked, I liked your attitude. And coming out of Chicago, there haven't been a whole lot of goalies coming out of Chicago. Brother
Me,
Rice, if I remember right, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, me and Eddie Olczyk out of there, but goalies out of Chicago, it's probably me and Scott Darling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't think. I think if you wanted to, you had to get past the 8 ball. Being from Brother Rice was, I think, your
Yeah,
biggest hurdle, and you did that just fine. So,
yeah. So for any goalie who came through St. Mary's in that era or came through camp, we got to watch these wonderful videos on goaltending.
yep, we did.
uh, yep. Do you still have those videos?
I do not, but Fred Hennon and I made a video,
Did you?
and I do still have it. I
Uh,
do still have it.
what I
Yep.
remember most about those videos is, it was the style I was taught in, and they were still teaching the skate save, turn that
Yeah.
leg over, do
Oh
the
yeah.
pad stack. And it was funny when you would have one of us goalies sit in there with the other goalies to
Oh,
watch these videos. Usually we would find somebody's leg pad and use it as a pillow and fall asleep and tell the
well,
kids, wake us when it's done.
it was almost like we were required to do it. So
Yeah.
here, watch this video. But what's interesting is because when you suggested or mentioned that you wanted to have me on the show, that was the one thing that I thought about more than anything was I'm not sure that I could coach the goalies of today
Hmm.
because it's so very different than what it was. Even when you were, heck, when you
Yeah.
were at St. Mary's, we still talked about stand-up goalies and butterfly goalies.
Yep.
Well, nobody stands up anymore. I mean, there's not even, and you certainly don't use a skate save. You
Nope.
certainly, it's just, I think that, today's goalies are more athletic, and I think that they're more, what's the word I want to use? They just, I think they just flow. If you watch them, they do when they're on their knees and they're pushing side to side, and it's just like
Hmm.
graceful.
Yeah.
It's like I still sit there and go, stand up, get up, because that's the way I was. It was just a different time.
Every
And
time a goalie gets scored on when they're down in that RVH, I go, well, if you were hugging the post, that wouldn't have happened.
No, right, and that part is true. And Andy and I talk about that all the time because I hate
Yep.
that one. I do
Yeah.
hate that one. But the whole movement, the slide from side to side, rather than trying to shuffle. I mean,
Yep.
think about it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's way more efficient than what we were trying to teach. But back
Absolutely.
then, that's what you taught. I mean,
Yep.
that's what it was. That was the style of.
Well, the
of,
equipment wouldn't allow us to move over. I
absolutely.
know that because I'm wearing 20-year-old Vaughns from that era, and I cannot move like that. If I'm down on my knees and I want to get to my post, I got to get up and push over.
Right. Yep.
I can't just
Yeah,
use that
so
one leg
it's very
push.
different, and the equipment makes a big difference too. I mean, you look at, I would have loved to have had the gloves that they have now. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't miss anything.
Yeah.
But it's just different, and it's interesting to try and think about how I would coach now. It would be very difficult because it's just so different than
Mm-hmm.
what I was raised on and what I learned and how I taught. And that's why I give people like Dave Rogalski and Ryan S. credit, because they've adapted. They've adapted with the change in goalies. I mean, it's a completely different position now.
It
And
is. It really is.
I do think that they're more athletic. I think that I'm not sure they're as I don't know, because I don't know the NHL goalies, but I don't know if they're as smart from a hockey
Mm-hmm.
smarts. I mean, I always think that goalies make great coaches
Mm-hmm.
because they have to figure out everything that's on the ice. They have to see everything that's going on. And I think that really is instilled in helping make them to be good coaches.
Absolutely. Now, I want to be respectful of time because I know you're a busy guy. So I want to shift gears a little bit. For years, and I didn't know this when I was going to St. Mary's, but I've learned since, every summer you and your family have taken road trips out to the different state parks. Started, when you had the boys, and since they've grown and left the nest, uh, you and Dee Dee still go to the different state parks. When did that start, and what was the impetus behind it?
Well, Dee Dee was always a camper.
Okay.
Growing up, she and her family always camped. And when we got married, I wasn't a camper. I had a pool in the backyard. I was not a camper. But she got me into it. And when Andy was about 18 months old, we took our first trip to Rocky Mountain National Park. And we spent a week there. And every year until Joey, who is now 31, make sure I got that right, 31. I don't want to screw up their name. We've done it every year. And so we haven't missed a year. We go out west. Now, since the boys are out of the house, it's just Dee Dee and I. We're tent campers. We've got a little 2-person tent, and we'll go for, Dee Dee's a teacher, so we'll go for 4 or 5 weeks out west and just kind of tour the national parks. We try to pick maybe a theme or an area that we want to go to, and it's just a time to unplug, recharge. With her being a school teacher and me working here, where it's just crazy for 9 months, we just kind of it just brings you relaxation, so that then maybe when you get back home, you're excited to get started again with your job, or for her with school. This year was a little bit different with COVID. Of course, we weren't able to do much. We went to Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, where Joey is my youngest, is a park ranger. So we really spent some nice quality time with he and his wife, but weren't able to go anywhere else, because every place else we were supposed to go to Glacier. Campgrounds were closed. We were supposed to go to Arches National Park in Utah, closed. So really it was pretty much a Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, and then home. But it's important, and we've done it for so long now that when the kids were gone and out of that, and it was just Dee Dee and I, we started to decide that we wanted to go to places that we've been before, so that I can maybe see them for a last time. Because sooner rather than later, I'm going to lose my eyesight because of the disease that I have. And so we want to make sure that we have the time that we have and make it as memorable as possible. So we'll go to places and just so that last time, it could be, maybe we don't make it back to Yosemite, but I have memories now of Yosemite National Park in California. And so if we're ever talking about it, I'll always have that. And so that's kind of how it started with Dee Dee and I solo doing it. And now it's just like, oh, we just go. Let's go. We can't wait to go. So,
well, and what's really fun too is because of social media, you bring Big Red, your little cardinal beanie, and you document it so all of us can, see where you've been. And
that's a great point, Joe. And we actually enjoy that. We enjoy bringing, because everybody should get out and visit our national parks. They're amazing. And so if we can provide people with just a little glimpse of what we get to experience, that's really cool. We've started to do some videos where we, just do some goofy stuff, and
those are hilarious.
And so, it's just, hey, you know what? We're having fun. We're in a great place. Come with us, follow along. And I get that from a lot of people. I know I talked to Tom Rice, who is a 79 grad, and real good friend of mine, played hockey at St. Mary's. And he says it every year. Yep. You guys are going on a trip. I'm following along. And so that's important to us too. We want that, because we want to be able to share with you guys what we get to see. And there's just, it's just, this United States is so amazing.
Yeah.
That, everybody needs to get out and enjoy it.
Yeah. One of my favorite shows on demand right now is from the Smithsonian Channel, Aerial America, where they just fly over the different states and show you all this stuff. And it's like, I feel like Liz Lemon from 30 Rock every time I'm going, take me there. I want to be there.
Well, and the beauty, Joe, the beauty of what Dee Dee and I do is anybody can do it.
Yep.
Anybody can do it, and very inexpensively. Like I said, we camp, so we're using a tent. It's like $20 a night.
Yep.
Now granted, you got to sleep on the ground and cook your own food, but it's an experience that everybody should try. And you get those people that say, well, I have little kids and they can't do it. Yeah, they can. I hauled Andy. He's 18 months. We hauled him everywhere we went. So
My boy's a Boy Scout now, so I go on as many of the campouts with them.
absolutely.
And in non-COVID times, they do a lot of campouts at the different state parks, and they go around to the different ones. Well, because of COVID, we haven't been able to go to the state parks, just the scout camps, which still fun. But I made sure to put that state park sticker to use during COVID, and every couple of weekends took the kids hiking and trying to hit the different state parks around town where it's under a 2-hour drive. I think we've hit all of them, so now we might have to drive a little farther.
There you go.
Well, we've started going to the Wisconsin ones because there's a few of them close by.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm all about that. Just unplug, spend some time together, and it's great. So what's been your favorite park so far?
Well, I mean, the Tetons are my favorite. I mean, and it isn't just because Joey's out there, but I've always loved them. It's just the mountains are right on top of you. You're just, there's just something magical about them. But, we've been to so many places that every one of them has something. You've got Mount Rainier, you've got, Yosemite with Half Dome and you've got El Capitan there. We've been to Alaska. And, we've been to Wrangell St. Elias and all the national parks, most of the national parks up in Alaska. And, Glacier is a phenomenal place in Montana. And it's just, you pick one and it's just, it brings back fond memories. Mm-hmm. Last year, for the first time, we always go west because the mountains are just amazing. But last year we went south. Mm-hmm. We went down to Big Bend National Park in Texas, Guadalupe Mountains and Carlsbad Caverns. And so that was all new to us. It was one of those years that we went places that we had never been to before. And that's always fun, because you just don't know what to expect. Yeah. It's like, okay, here's where we're going. We have no idea. And so, that's fun to do too. But, Rocky Mountain for my wife, that's her favorite. Tetons for me, I could go there every year and just, it's just, there was one year that we went to the Tetons and I told Dee, I said, for an afternoon, I'm just going to take my chair and I'm just going to set it in a field and I'm just going to stare at the mountains. And I grabbed a 6-pack of beer and went out in the field and I just sat there and I sat there for hours and I just stared. There's something about that place that just kind of gives me peace and I can just sit there and just look at the, God's amazing creation.
Yeah. There's two things in that. You mentioned the beer. I too am a craft beer aficionado, and I'm very envious of all the craft beer breweries you guys have stopped along the way too. And then on top of it, you rub it in that you're going there.
Yep. Well, the thing is I give my youngest son, Joey, most of the credit. He's the one that really got me into craft beer. And he is, if there's an aficionado, he is it. But, whenever we travel now, and this year we weren't able to do it because of COVID, but whenever we travel, that's one of the things we try to do is we try to find, in these little towns that we go through, hey, do they have a brewery? Let's go stop and we'll go stop and have a beer. And it's, you have some amazing ones. And we've been out in Wyoming. I've got a couple now that are my absolute favorites and can't wait to go visit Joey so I can pick some up and bring it home. But, it's another part of the adventure that Dee Dee and I have created is just another thing that we can do, just the two of us and is pretty easy to do.
Yeah. Now you mentioned just sitting out there and looking at the mountains for, an afternoon, and my folks now live on a coastal island in North Carolina on the ocean. And the first time I went out there, my dad was going to do his volunteering at the aquarium for the day. My mom was out of town. So I said, I'm going to go sit on the beach and read my book. 3 hours later, I had yet to open my book. I was just watching the waves, watching the dolphins behind the fishing boats. And, and then it was,
there's something about it, Joe. And, when we went to Olympic National Park in Washington, and one evening, the neat thing about that place is you can have fires on the beach. Mm-hmm. And so we gathered firewood and we had a fire, and sun starts to set and we're watching it. And you literally can see it go over the horizon, and we're sitting there and we're watching it, and it's going down and it's going down and it's going down. And it finally goes down, and, we're just like, giddy. And all of a sudden all you hear is this clapping from all over. And it was just people that literally and they clapped because of the sunset, and you could just watch it. And it was just, it was like your little slice of heaven all by yourself. And then all of a sudden you hear it from all over the place. Are these people clapping, enjoying the same thing that you just saw? And that's, yeah.
So you guys have taken these wild adventures, as you mentioned, because of your eye disease. You have your own chauffeur, so when you do stop at those breweries, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But what's been the scariest adventure you guys have been on? Going through I'm gonna guess it's going through the mountains at some point.
Well, for Dee Dee, it's going through the tunnels because she hates tunnels, and I always video it because she literally hates tunnels. And but we've had some close encounters with wildlife. There was a time we were in Alaska. In Alaska, when we went to Mount Denali, and when you go to that national park, you have to take a shuttle bus. It's the only road in the park, and you have to take a shuttle bus. But you can get off anywhere you want, and then you go do your hiking, and then you go back to the road, and the bus will pick you up and take you back. But we decided, let's stop here, and we get off the bus, and we start hiking up this little wasn't little, but this hill mountain, and Andy's in the lead, and then there's Joey, and then there's me, and Dee Dee's straggling behind singing John Denver, and doing her thing. And Andy gets to a little whatever clearing or whatever, and he looks back behind Dee Dee, and he just yells, "Bear!" And we all turn, and if Dee Dee's standing one way and right perpendicular to her, there's a bear running right across the field, and probably about 50 yards from her, and he gets past, and Dee Dee looks up at Andy and says, "I'm ready to go." And that was it was pretty scary because you don't want to mess with those grizzlies.
They're not scared of humans like black bears.
Yeah, but that was probably the scariest experience we've had, and I tell the story all the time because it was pretty memorable. We've seen a lot of wildlife in our travels and in our journeys, but that was the one where we didn't really get to enjoy seeing the wildlife. It was more, please go away.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie with Robert Redford and Nick Nolte where they hike the Appalachian Trail?
I have not.
I believe it's called Into the Wild. You would enjoy it. I won't give you any spoilers, but there's a few discussions about bear, and they're funny. So you mentioned Dee Dee's a school teacher, and because of distance learning, she's had a few interesting videos that she shared on social media where you've made a guest appearance.
Yeah, we actually, the thing is, what Dee Dee found out last spring was how difficult distance learning is.
Yeah.
And for her, I mean, she's been teaching now for 22 years, fifth grade, all 22 years, and last spring, I mean, she had to reteach herself. She's never taught via Zoom or anything like that. It's always been in person, and you can pretty much do a lesson plan out of your head because you've done it for so long. Well, now everything is new, and she's got to recreate everything. And she's like, how am I going to teach this? How am I going to teach that? And she's like, I'm just going to make videos. Mm-hmm. And so, I'd be her dummy and
her sideshow Bob.
I actually enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, and the kids liked it. And part of it is this time we're in right now is hard on everybody.
Yeah.
If we can bring a little enjoyment to learning, why not? I mean, if you want to use me as the goofball clown, that's fine. If the kids like it, that's what it's all about. And she came up with some really neat ideas and videos to make. And if I wasn't trying to spoil it, I would be helping it. And
I feel like there was very little encouragement needed for you.
There was not much encouragement needed.
So one of the things I'm trying to do with each episode is I like to ask a series of rapid fire questions to wrap things up. And it's just kind of the first thing that comes to your mind. So the first question is the craziest coaching moment you have encountered during your playing or coaching days? I'm thinking the Mike Keenan throwing the sticks type of crazy moment.
Well, we had one. I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, but we had one when I was coaching high school. We had one of our players was at the point, offensive zone, took a slap shot, and a Faribault player, it hit him right in the chest. And it caused, they needed to get the ambulance and whatnot. But their parents wanted to fight us because they claimed that our player did it on purpose. And it was like, I mean, it was a scary, the police had to be called and people had to be restrained. And it's just kind of like, this is not what hockey's all about. But that would probably be the craziest time that I've had.
Your favorite all-time goalie mask?
A Bernie Perrant. The old full plastic with the little Philadelphia Flyers logos on them.
I had a feeling that was going to be your answer. I know he's your favorite.
He is.
Your all-time favorite rink to skate at?
I skated at. This is going to be St. Mary's Point in Stillwater. Little rinky-dink rink that was colder than you have any idea, because we used to have to skate there at like 6 a.m. if we used that rink when we were growing up. But just something about it that was just kind of just an old rinky-dink little town rink. And, anytime you knew you were going to practice there, you knew it was going to be cold.
Put the long johns on. Mine still is the rink that your office is connected to.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the memories.
Absolutely.
Your favorite stick that you've used?
My favorite stick. Well, the one that I usually used was a Northland.
Okay.
And that was, you gotta remember, you're going way back.
Yeah. There weren't many options, though.
No, there weren't many options.
Yeah. Yeah. Your favorite youth hockey memory?
I think we used to host a tournament in River Falls, and it was like a Friday night and a Saturday, and you got to stay overnight. And so you don't usually do that when we were kids, back when we were playing. And so we'd have this tournament, we'd get to stay overnight, we'd stay in a hotel, and all the people were with, all the team was there. We'd get to run the penalty box when other games were played. It was just like being a kid and getting to do almost anything you want to do. We get to sit in the goal judge chairs, and so it was a weekend that we always look forward to every year. And it just was a lot of
fun. Next one is the best chirp you've heard on the ice.
Oh, I think I'm going to pass on that one.
It wasn't so much a chirp as it just made the entire bench laugh. We were playing at Shattuck St. Mary's, and we were losing. And Coach Manor says, if you guys lose, no French fries on the way home. And Mike Walsh, Grandpa Walsh, gets a breakaway and scores. And the first question is, how do you get a breakaway, Grandpa? And he said, I don't know. I think everybody was back checking so hard they skated past me. And then he just sits down and he goes, nobody F's with my French fries. And it was,
Joe, I did have one when I was coaching. I was coaching Pee Wees, and we were a Pee Wee A team that should have been a Pee Wee B team. We had 10 skaters, and we were playing in Hastings. I always stood on the bench because I was too short, so I always stood on the bench. And we were in our defensive zone because that's where we lived, is in the defensive zone. And I was right at the blue line, right where the ref was, and I had a puck in my hand. And I go to him. I says, "Hey, Stripes." He kind of looks over his shoulder at me. I says, "Is it okay if I throw this puck down there, because they won't let us use that one?" That would probably be my best chirp.
Is he talk about having fun with the refs? My first beer league game was this weekend since COVID, and the refs came out, and I looked at him. I said, I've kind of missed your kind. And then there was a goal scored on me. It was the third shot. I made the first 2 saves, and the third one went in. I looked at the ref. I said, "Don't you know COVID rules? You're supposed to blow it dead after 2 saves." As a fellow beer aficionado, I think you'll have a good answer for this one. The worst post-game beer you've had?
Natty Light.
I'm with you there.
Yep.
Mine's still a warm Bush Light somebody decided to bring.
Yeah, that would be number 2. I would definitely not a Busch Light fan, that's for sure.
When I was at St. Mary's, a lot of the boys would drink Natty Light because they could get a 30 case for $3.99 down at the bottom of the hill.
Cheap beer. I don't need to go cheap anymore. So
right, I drink for the taste, not for the effect. When you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
I went toe to heel.
Okay. One of the few goalies I know that does that.
Yeah, I went toe to heel. That was an easy answer too.
Favorite number to wear?
Number 1.
It was number 1 because Bernie Perrant and I know Andy
now, here's
wore
one
it too.
For you. I got a fast. What is up with goalie numbers?
I don't know.
If you watched the game last night, they were 80 and 90.
Yeah, I don't know why they're all over the place. And then the Edmonton goalie had 19.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's 88. I don't know. I don't know why they're going crazy.
I think it's all Belfour's fault.
Well, he went to 20 for Tretiak.
Exactly, but he started that whole get out of the 30s thing. It drives me crazy.
Well, to be fair, it was Ron Hextall with his 27 started that. Yeah. But he wanted to be a forward anyway, so that's right.
That's right.
That one made sense. And the last question is we encroach on the top of the hour. Advice for young goalies.
Well, my biggest advice for young goalies would be you have to be, actually probably more for a little older, but you have to be thick-skinned. You have to be able to wipe away a goal, not take it personally. I mean, I'm sure you remember when we taught goalies at camp, they score a goal. What are you supposed to do? You
forget about it.
Crease.
Yeah.
You sweep out the crease, you sweep away that goal, and you get focused on the next one. Because it's being a goalie can be the most fun position you could ever play, but it's also the most difficult because you know what? No matter what happens, you let the puck go in.
Yep.
I used to always tell my young goalies, you cannot blame any player for a goal being scored, but they can all blame you.
I got some beer league footage. We can blame some of my defensemen on the goals.
Well, yeah, but the reality is they're going to come back and say, yeah, but you let it in.
Yeah.
You're right. So you just have to be thick-skinned. You have to be able to shake it off, and you just have to understand that people aren't going to hold it against you. They're not going to think you're a lesser person if you have a bad game or you let in a couple of soft goals. They're not going to, it's part of life.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a goalie, you just have to be able to handle that because that's the way it's going to be. You're going to have teammates and you're going to have players that are going to say it was your fault we lost. Well, if you let in 4 goals, technically they're not wrong, but you just have to understand that they're not right either.
Yeah. And some nights it is my fault. Thanks to the concussions I had, it's easy for me to forget those goals too.
That's right.
Donny, I can't thank you enough. It's been great talking to you. I almost miss sitting in Coach Manner's office on the couch because the 3 of us and sometimes other players being there talking. So it was nice to.
Thank you for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I can't thank Donny enough. Not just for his time today to talk on this episode, but for his guidance through my 4 years at St. Mary's and our continued friendship since. Be sure to follow Donny on social media at SMUSID on both Twitter and Instagram. If anything, he is worth a follow just to see Big Red's summer adventures through the nation's national parks. I'll have links to his social accounts in the show notes as well. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Simply search for Washed Up Goalie and I'll pop up. Visit washedupgoalie.com for some great hockey-related content, my beer league hockey video highlights, and all podcast episodes of Tendy Talk. I need to give a big thank you to the band The Zambonis for allowing me to use their music on my podcast. You can download their music on iTunes and listen to them wherever you stream music. I'm working on lining up other goalies to talk to. If you are a goalie or have connections to a goalie who I should talk to, shoot me an email at washedupgoalie39@gmail.com or send me a DM on social media. Also, if you're a brand who wants to sponsor the show, be sure to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk and work something out. And finally, if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on the podcast platform you're listening on. It's a quick action on your part that helps others find Tendy Talk. Until next time, keep your stick on the ice and your body square to the puck.